Who's your commander?
Good luck.
Equip.
Move to combat.
Resolves.
Now, before you attack
Does
me,
anyone have an answer?
well played.
Good game.
Hello Dino Riders, this is Jumbo Commander, and today I'm talking about so many legendary creatures from Rivals of Ixalan. I'm talking about every single Elder Dinosaur legend. And how does each Elder Dino perform in Commander? I think we have to start off with Zacama Primal Calamity. 6 red, green, white for a 9/9 with Vigilance, Reach, Trample, and when Zacama Primal Calamity enters the battlefield, if you cast it, untap all lands you control. See, the trick with Zacama is that it's free. Not really. You gotta have 9 mana in order to get this onto the battlefield, but when you do, you get to untap all of them. Man, I love this. And those abilities are instantly accessible. Like you can shoot something like a big old Sky Sovereign, you can blow up 3 artifacts if you want to sink all your mana into that, like a Terastodon, or gain a bunch of life, maybe like a Resolute Archangel. So you can see that Zacama is not the best of all of these abilities, but it's so flexible. We have so many different options. And honestly, it's all about that land untapping. Because if we keep casting Zacama, we have access to a really powerful ability. So in order to take advantage of that, we need to flood the board with lands. I'm thinking Boundless Realms, doubling up your lands, getting so many onto the battlefield so you can really take advantage of floating that mana with Zacama. And do you know what? This might be the only deck I consider Collective Voyage for. You get to join forces and everyone gets to put a bunch of basic lands onto the battlefield. And with more lands, you get more advantage from Zacama. And that includes the mana doublers like Mirari's Wake, Mana Flare, Heartbeat of Spring, and my favorite doubler, Mana Reflection. Mana Reflection's my favorite because it literally doubles. All those others, you call them mana doublers, and it's not really a doubler because they just add 1 extra. Mana Reflection truly doubles. Oh, tap that Soul Ring for 4. So what are we going to do with all of this mana? Well, we can sink it into Zacama's ability. That's a normal thing. We can cast other huge spells like fireballs, but I think I want to combo off with Zacama. I want to be able to bounce Zacama back to my hand with another silly creature, maybe a Cloudstone Curio. So yeah, play Zacama and then you bounce another creature back to your hand, just some stupid utility creature, everything untaps, and then you tap everything again, generating mana, and you play that stupid small creature. I have a Weathered Wayfarer here because Weathered Wayfarer can get us some awesome utility lands, and Zacama comes right back to your hand. So this is a loop that with enough mana, you can just keep generating infinite mana. Now, what are we going to do infinite mana? Well, we can gain infinite life. We can destroy all the artifacts and enchantments. We can kill every creature with damage, but Zacama doesn't have an ability to target our opponent. That's why I suggest a card like Shivan Gorge, because it's not a very good card, and if you're going to destroy your opponent 1 damage at a time with a Shivan Gorge, that would be majestic. So you can just keep casting Zacama and generating mana, and Shivan Gorge will keep untapping, and you can keep sinking mana into it, dealing 1. There's a few other options available with infinite mana. You can use other lands to make sure that you finish out the game. Kessig Wolfgrun, Gavany Township, and there's a lot of pieces that are interchangeable in this combo. For example, with enough mana, a Temur Sabertooth can replace that Cloudstone Curio. And honestly, any other creature can trigger the Curio and combo off with Zacama, so that's going to be pretty easy. And honestly, you could just go big stuff Naya and just find a place to put all of this mana. I honestly think Zacama is really interesting, but Zacama's not really going to be leading the charge for all of the other dinosaurs. I think the older dinosaur avatar, Jisath, Sun's avatar, has to be the dinosaur commander. And so Zacama ends up being an interesting Naya combo commander. I mean, I certainly think that that's fascinating, but let's talk about all the other Elder Dinosaur legends and find out how they fit in. I think first up, we have to talk about a pretty weak one, which is Tetsu Mach Primal Death. Tetsu Mach has a problem. Its activated ability is great, but it happens from your hand. Ugh. And that makes it super awkward. You have extra steps you have to go through before you can even prey on something and then cast it and then finally get what you want. I guess you can command beacon it to your hand, you can cast it and erratic portal it back to your hand, but honestly, do we really need more Reaver demons in the world? Because that's kind of what we're dealing with here, is just a slow, awkward Reaver demon. I can see it in the 99 of a few decks, and specifically as a 99 in Hirobi Death's Wail, because whenever a creature becomes target of a spell or ability, destroy that creature. Oh, that would be great if you just reveal Tetsu Mach a bunch of times just to mow down the board with Hirobi on the battlefield. That sounds really cool. But other than that, Tetsu Mach might just find its way into some normal black value decks. The next Elder Dinosaur is Nezha Hall Primal Tide, 5 blue for a 7/7, and it can't be countered. You have no maximum hand size. Whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, you get to draw a card, and Nezha Hall can be protected by discarding 3 cards that will exile Nezha Hall, and then you can return it to the battlefield under its owner control at the beginning of the next end step. So that means that Nezha Hall will dodge board wipes with that flicker ability. I heard someone say that Nezha Hall was Mystic Remora all grown up, and I find that hilarious and slightly accurate. I mean, people cast non-creature spells all the time, and the ability to keep drawing cards off of them can be really good. Nezha Hall could be the ideal big beater. I mean, think about other big beaters in blue. That's Lorthos the Tidemaker, Jingataxis, or Tromocratus. I think Nezha Hall can hang with those creatures. But those creatures are also not the top tier of commanders. They're more, hey, I want to do my own thing, and I think that's what Nezha Hall is going to end up being. The one thing that makes me sad, though, is that it still gets wiped to Whelming Wave. It returns all creatures to their owner's hands except for krakens, leviathans, octopuses, and serpents. And this is just an Elder Dinosaur, and Nezha Hall will go right back to your hand. So you can't even go big sea monster tribal with Nezha Hall because it just isn't a flavor win. I think you gotta rely on the Lorthos or the Tromocratus for that. But in other decks, I think Nezha Hall could do just fine. Maybe you can put him into play with a Giora, although Giora's better known for putting even bigger stuff into play. Maybe you can get value out of a Keranos God of Storms deck, those kind of controlling decks where you need to have some finishers, but most of the time you're just stalling out the board. Maybe Nezha Hall could be sort of a blue finisher. There are some decks out there that run Sphinx of the Final Word in order to have a very reliable finisher, and maybe Nezha Hall can replace the Sphinx in those decks. I also think it could be useful in Marsil. The problem is that Nezha Hall's static abilities are what are really great. The no maximum hand size, the card draw, but maybe Marsil really needs an ability to exile itself to come back in. And that can be good too. You discard 3 cards and then Marsil blinks out and comes back in and then maybe has the opportunity to put in the cage one of the cards you just discarded. So it might fit in your Marsil deck, although it's not a slam dunk. Another thing that's disappointing about Nezha Hall as a finisher is that there's no evasion, there's no flying, there's no island walk even, there's no trample, and so this can just be chumped for days. And even though it might be able to dodge everything people try to take it out with, ultimately, if it can't really impact the game by killing someone, maybe it's not worth it. I don't know how hard we're leaning on this card draw from Nezha Hall. Overall, I really like Nezha Hall, but I have 30-something commander decks, and I don't know where I would stick a copy of this Elder Dinosaur, which means how effective is he? The next Elder Dinosaur is gigantic. It's Galta Primal Hunger. Galta Primal Hunger is 12 converted mana cost, 10 green for a 12/12, but that cost can be reduced. You get to pay X less, where X is the total power of creatures you control. By the way, Galta does have a critical ability, Trample, Trample means that Galta is going to get damage through more reliably than other commanders, and such a big power really screams to have a Voltron strategy built around it. Maybe not a full Voltron, because we will want other creatures, lots of other creatures with high power in this deck so we can cast Galta faster. I'd like to include just the option of having a commander kill. Cards like Berserk can end the game out of nowhere, and Fire Shrieker can make Galta a one-hit kill, demanding attention immediately. But all of Galta's support system is going to be high-powered creatures, so let's play off of that high power with cards like Rishkar's Expertise. Draw a lot of cards and play something else onto the battlefield. And if Galta's on play, that's 12 cards. Jeez. Traverse the Outlands. Similarly, with Galt in play, 12 lands. And we can always get value off of a card like Greater Good. Sacrificing Galta is not that bad because Galta is so cheap. And one important thing to know about Commander is that all of the reductions happen after the Commander tax. So if this is the third time you're casting Galta from the command zone, you won't have to pay 16 CMC. You can reduce that by all of the power from creatures on the battlefield and only pay green. We can also take advantage of this tremendous mana cost with a card like Eldritch Evolution. Now, there isn't much to get at 13 or 14 new Emrakul, but you can always get other powerful creatures at 11 and 12 converted mana cost. Unfortunately, we need Eldritch Evolution, not a card like Birthing Pod, because Eldritch Evolution lets us get any creature as long as it's less than 14 CMC. So where does Galta fit in the 99? Well, I think it goes in big power decks like Xenagos or Selvala. In Xenagos, you just want to drop the biggest power creatures possible and then slam into your opponents. And by the way, Xenagos doubles the power of many of these creatures. So if you just have a 5/5 and Xenagos doubles it to a 10/10, then Galta just costs green in your second main phase. Yeah. Also, Selvala Heart of the Wilds really wants to drop big-powered creatures fast, because that's how Selvala generates a lot of mana. So Galta is going to very reliably be just green, and Selvala's really going to love tapping for 12 mana. Our next Elder Dinosaur is Tulpa Primal Dawn. 8 CMC, that's 6 white for a 4/8 with a lot of keywords. Flying, double strike, vigilance, trample, and indestructible. Now, there are a lot of people out there talking trash about this pterodactyl, but honestly, Zatulpa's not that bad. Granted, 8 CMC will not work in many metagames, and being mono-white is honestly starting at a disadvantage. But Zatulpa can still smash into people in endgames. Having indestructible is a really strong ability. Even though Zatulpa is going to be the one ending the game with commander damage, this is not really a Voltron deck, and white has some good Voltron generals. Balan or Saram are really great, but they require a lot of equipments or auras to sort of make sure that they generate value. Zatulpa does it all on its own. You know, Zatulpa's kind of the top end for a more controlling deck. In fact, I feel like Zatulpa's a more fair Avacyn Angel of Hope. In fact, if you have just a so-so Avacyn deck, and you're not running cards like World Slayer or Nevinyrral's Disc, then you might get too much hate. Maybe you should replace your Avacyn with Zatulpa, just to calm everyone down and say, look, I'm not playing Avacyn, it's not that powerful, it's this crazy-ass dinosaur, and then ramp to Zatulpa, wipe the board a bunch of times, and then smash into people's faces. Honestly, it has the same clock as Avacyn, and it doesn't have the same synergies, but it can still do a lot. As part of the 99, while that keyword soup goes great with Odric Luminarch Marshal, giving everyone flying, double strike, vigilance, trample, and indestructible, yeah, that's a game ender right there. Or the fact that it has such a low power, but that high toughness, Doran the Siege Tower could use Zatulpa as really a crazy top-end card. Doran is more of an aggressive deck, so I don't know if it needs an 8-drop, but it is definitely a fun over-the-top ability for sure. And finally, the last color is my favorite dinosaur out of this group. It's Atali Primal Storm. This card is amazing. 4 red, very reasonable 6 CMC for a legendary Elder Dinosaur, and is a 6/6. Whenever Atali Primal Storm attacks, exile the top card of each player's library. Then you may cast any number of non-land cards exiled this way without paying their mana cost. In a 4-player game, you'll be casting 4 spells when you swing with Atali. Not even when you connect, just when you swing for free. Oh my gosh, this is so good. I think it can go in a lot of big red decks. Atali could even be at the helm of its own commander deck. I'm thinking pack this thing full of attack triggers. How about Mer Battlesphere? Has an attack trigger, is also huge to cast off of Atali. How about Inferno Titan? Has an attack trigger, also really huge. Ulamog. Now that's an attack trigger right there. And you know what? I wouldn't mind casting it. This casts the creatures. This just screams for Eldrazi to get those great cast triggers. And you could even manipulate the top of your deck with a card like Sensei's Divining Top or Scroll Rack. Just boop, put exactly what you want right on top of your library and then cast an Ulamog. Oh my gosh. And this is on attack, so you can keep recycling your attacks with cards like Seize the Day, Aggravated Assault, and Savage Beating. In fact, that has me thinking of Scourge of the Throne, another creature that gives you an extra combat. Huge creatures that give you tons of advantage when you attack? That sounds like a really fun strategy and just a big, amazing deck. I love it. One other thing that could throw a wrench in this is that I love how it casts off the top of your library. So a card like Possibility Storm could confuse everyone else and mess up the game for all of them, where you could just keep casting exactly what you want straight off the top of your library. Atali is so powerful, I think that it can slot into many different commander decks, but I think the ones that are going to like it the most are maybe Narset as another kind of mini Narset, maybe one of the more fair Narset decks. I know, fair Narset just makes sense. A Yidris deck might like this Dinosaur because you're trying to take advantage of cascading into great spells, or Aurelia the War Leader, taking advantage of those extra combats. Man, these dinosaurs have been spectacular. I'm also really excited about just more dinosaurs out there. I want to throw them all in my Grimlock Dinobot Leader deck. Anyways, I'm super excited about this new set, and I hope you are too. My name's Jumbo Commander, and I have many people to thank. All of my patrons, and you. Thank you very much for watching this video, for liking, subscribing, for sharing it. Thank you very much, and I'll see you all really soon with even more Commander content.